Every year, thousands of teenagers go missing, and most are found safe. But some disappear under circumstances so chilling, they haunt entire communities for years. This is the story of Skylar Neese, a bright, loving 16-year-old from Star City, West Virginia, whose life was brutally cut short by the people she trusted most, her best friends. On a summer night in 2012, Skylar vanished without a trace. The search was long and painful, the mystery deepened by lies and betrayal. As the investigation unfolded, what seemed like a tragic disappearance revealed itself to be a horrifying crime. Two teenage girls, once inseparable with Skylar, confessed to a cold-blooded murder. Tonight, we'll take you inside the chilling case that shocked a nation, exploring the search, the secrets, the trial, and the lasting legacy of a young life stolen too soon. This is the true story of friendship, betrayal, and the dark shadows that sometimes lurk just beneath the surface. July 6, 2012. A warm summer night in Star City, West Virginia. At first glance, the town looked peaceful, quiet streets, porch lights glowing softly, and the distant hum of cars rolling across the small bridges that connect one neighborhood to another. But in one apartment complex, tucked behind a row of trees, something unimaginable was happening. A family slept unknowingly through the final moments before their world changed forever. 16-year-old Skylar Neese wasn't in her bed. She wasn't scrolling through her phone. She wasn't watching TV or staying up late like she usually did. Instead, she was preparing to make a decision that would send shockwaves through her town, her family, and eventually, the entire country. The clock struck 12:30 a.m. A small shadow moved across the carpet of her bedroom. Skylar slowly slid her window open, quietly, carefully, just as she had done so many times before when sneaking out with her friends. She believed it was nothing unusual, nothing dangerous, nothing that would alter the course of her life. But that night was different in every way. Outside, a car approached. Old, dark, dusty. It rolled up slowly to the edge of the apartment parking lot, just outside the view of most windows, just far enough into the shadows that no one could see who was inside without stepping into the night. There were no headlights, no movement, no sound besides the low idle of the engine. A grainy security camera caught the moment. A figure, Skylar, stepping out into the darkness, her hair tied back, her posture relaxed, her steps confident. She didn't look scared. She didn't hesitate. She walked toward the car as if she knew the people inside, as if she trusted them. She opened the back door. She climbed in. The car pulled away. And that was it. No scream. No struggle. No sudden lunge for help. The camera saw everything, and somehow nothing at all. Within seconds, the street was empty again. The building silent. The night returned to normal. But Skylar was gone. By morning, her absence felt strange. By afternoon, it felt alarming. And by evening, it became terrifying. Her parents believed at first that she had overslept or maybe walked to a friend's house. But when they entered her room and found her bed untouched, her phone missing, her window slightly open, and a stool pushed against it, everything inside them sank. Something was wrong. Very wrong. The call was made to police. Officers arrived, asked questions, searched the surrounding area. But nothing added up. A straight-A honor student with no history of running away, no signs of trouble, no issues at home. Simply vanishing without a trace? Impossible. Or so everyone thought. That single moment, captured in a blurry, black-and-white clip, would become the starting point of one of the most chilling teen crime investigations in recent American history. A mystery wrapped in friendship, betrayal, and a truth far darker than anyone was prepared to face. By the next morning, panic had settled into the Neese household like a heavy fog. Skylar Neese was the kind of girl who texted her parents if she would be 5 minutes late. The idea that she simply disappeared without a word was not just unusual, it was impossible. Dave and Mary Neese, Skylar's parents, knew their daughter. Something was wrong. When Skylar didn't show up for her part-time job, alarms went off across the community. Coworkers called her parents. Friends posted on social media. The local police department sent officers to canvass the neighborhood. But from the very beginning, detectives faced a problem. The disappearance looked clean. Too clean. There was no forced entry. No signs of a struggle. No suspicious activity in the hours before she vanished. Nothing except a window left slightly ajar and that stool in the corner, the silent evidence that she had climbed out willingly. For many investigators, that single detail suggested a runaway situation. But Dave and Mary rejected that theory instantly. Their daughter had plans. She had responsibilities. She had no reason to run. And deep down, her parents felt something colder, an intuition no parent ever wants to confront. A missing person report was filed. Flyers were printed. Search teams walked through wooded areas. Volunteers combed through streets, ditches, and bridges. But days turned into weeks, and every new lead led to the same dead end. There was no trace of Skylar. Then came the first major break, the apartment complex security footage. Officers rewound the video again and again, staring at the grainy image of Skylar stepping into that car. She opened the back door with ease. No hesitation. She knew the people inside. But the footage failed to reveal the vehicle's license plate. The angle was too low. The quality too poor. The only identifiable detail. It was a sedan, dark-colored, possibly silver or beige. A model common enough to blend into any neighborhood unnoticed. Police turned their attention to the people closest to Skylar, her friends. Enter Sheila Eddy and Rachel Schoaf, Skylar's two best friends. The inseparable trio. The girls everyone said were like sisters. When detectives reached out, both Sheila and Rachel were quick to respond. They were emotional, cooperative, and heartbroken. Or at least they seemed to be. Sheila even called Skylar's parents daily, offering comfort, updates, theories. She cried with Mary, talked with Dave, and posted emotional pleas on Twitter. Skylar, please come home. We miss you. I can't sleep. I just want my best friend back. But detectives noticed something odd. Neither friend mentioned seeing Skylar the night she vanished. When asked directly, both girls insisted they had not been with her at all. Weeks passed. The community prayed. The Neese family suffered. Police searched harder. But behind the scenes, beneath the surface of grief and fear, a darker truth was beginning to bubble. One that no one, not even seasoned detectives, was prepared for. Because the two people crying the loudest were hiding the biggest secret of all. Detectives initially believed Sheila and Rachel. Their emotions felt real until inconsistencies began piling up. When officers compared their statements, something didn't add up. Sheila said she spent the night at home. Rachel said she went to church camp early that morning. But phone records painted a different picture. At around 12:30 a.m., the exact moment Skylar disappeared, both Sheila and Rachel's phones pinged near the Neese apartment complex. It wasn't proof, but it was something. And in a case where nothing was adding up, that single detail became a spark. The girls were brought back in for questioning. Sheila, with her polished smiles and perfect confidence, denied everything without hesitation. Rachel, on the other hand, seemed nervous. Her leg bounced uncontrollably. Her hands trembled. She avoided eye contact. When detectives asked why their phones were near Skylar's home, they shrugged it off. "We drive around a lot," Sheila said casually. But officers weren't convinced. Behind closed doors, investigators speculated privately. Were these girls hiding something? Had an argument occurred? Was Skylar running with the wrong crowd? Still, with no body, no eyewitnesses, and no physical evidence, the case stalled. And the longer Skylar remained missing, the more the town whispered, wondered, and feared the worst. Meanwhile, Sheila's behavior changed, not into grief, but into performance. Posting sentimental messages online, rereading old texts, playing the role of the devastated best friend so perfectly it almost seemed rehearsed. But detectives knew one thing for sure. People who tell the truth rarely need to rehearse it. As days turned into months, something unsettling began happening online. Sheila Eddy transformed from a grieving best friend into a social media spectacle. She tweeted daily about how much she missed Skylar, how broken she felt, how she was losing her mind without her. But those who followed closely noticed a pattern. Her sadness only appeared when others were watching. Offline, she acted differently, laughing with friends, posting selfies, going to parties. Her energy wasn't grief, it was performance. A mask. And the mask was slipping. Detectives monitored her social media, and with every carefully worded tweet, they grew more suspicious. People grieving don't script their sorrow. They don't time their emotions. They don't need an audience. Meanwhile, Rachel's behavior took a darker turn. She withdrew completely. She avoided school. She stopped eating. Her grades collapsed. Whenever police called, she stuttered, panicked, and tried to end the conversation as fast as possible. But Sheila? She was composed, controlled, confident. Two best friends, reacting to the same tragedy in two very different ways. Then came the tweet that shook the entire community. We really did go on 3. 1, 2, 3. It seemed harmless, cryptic, meaningless. But detectives flagged it instantly. Why post something like that during a missing person investigation? Why count to 3? What happened on 3? No one knew it then, but that short tweet was a confession hiding in plain sight, a clue to the brutal truth buried beneath months of lies. Behind the screen, behind the staged heartbreak and curated sympathy, the truth was rotting, festering, begging to be exposed. And it was only a matter of time before the first crack turned into an avalanche. 6 months after Skylar vanished, winter tightened its grip around Star City. But the coldest part wasn't the weather, it was the silence. The investigation had stalled. Leads dried up. The case felt frozen in time. And then quietly, something cracked. Rachel Schoaf, once bubbly, social, and full of energy, was spiraling. Her parents watched helplessly as their daughter unraveled. She had panic attacks daily. She broke down crying for no reason. She refused to go to school. She couldn't sleep without screaming through nightmares she wouldn't explain. It reached a breaking point on December 28th, when Rachel suffered a complete emotional collapse. Her parents called 911. Officers rushed in to find her shaking, sobbing uncontrollably, screaming that she couldn't do it anymore. Rachel was admitted to a psychiatric hospital. Detectives didn't miss their chance. The moment Rachel's mental state stabilized, officers gently sat beside her, not as interrogators, but as people who knew she was carrying a weight too heavy for a teenager. And for the first time, Rachel didn't lie. Her voice trembled. She looked down at her hands. And then, like a dam breaking after months of pressure, we stabbed her. Sheila and we killed Skylar. The room froze. Officers stared in disbelief. But Rachel kept talking, shaking, sobbing, unraveling. She explained how they picked Skylar up that night, how they drove her into the woods, how the three of them walked down a dark, lonely path, one Skylar didn't know would be her last. And then she said the words that would haunt detectives forever. We counted to 3, and we attacked her. The secret was out. The lies were collapsing, and the truth was darker than anyone imagined. The confession sent shockwaves through the small community. Sheila Eddy and Rachel Schoaf, two teenage girls who had once shared secrets, dreams, and laughter with Skylar, were now confessing to her murder. Investigators scrambled to piece together what had happened that night. According to Rachel's chilling testimony, the plan had been months in the making, a terrifying blend of jealousy, anger, and cold calculation. Skylar, once their best friend, had become a target. The night of July 6 started like any other, the 3 girls sneaking out under the cover of darkness. Skylar trusted them implicitly, never suspecting the horror that awaited. They drove silently to a remote wooded area near the Pennsylvania border. The air was thick, heavy with secrets. Rachel described how the 3 walked down a narrow path into the woods, the moonlight barely breaking through the canopy of leaves. Then, at the count of 3, the unthinkable happened. Skylar was stabbed repeatedly. The attack was brutal but swift. The girls left her body in the woods, covered it with branches, and fled back home. The chilling details shocked even the most seasoned detectives. What motive could two best friends have for such a savage act? During interviews and interrogations, Rachel admitted their hatred had grown over time. Skylar's perfect life, her grades, her popularity, it had become unbearable. But the real motive, she said, was simple. We just didn't like her anymore. The words hung in the air, cold, incomprehensible, terrifying. Sheila and Rachel weren't monsters born overnight. They were teenage girls who had crossed a line from which there was no return. And now, the town that had once mourned Skylar would have to reckon with a betrayal that cut deeper than anyone thought possible. With Rachel's confession, law enforcement moved quickly. Time was running out. Skylar's body was still missing, buried somewhere deep in the dense West Virginia woods. Search teams were deployed, state police, local deputies, and FBI agents combed every inch of forest, creek, and ravine. The terrain was rough and unforgiving, thick brush, uneven ground, and cold winter weather made the search exhausting and slow. Volunteers joined the effort, families and friends clinging to the fragile hope of finding their daughter alive. Flyers bearing Skylar's smiling face were plastered everywhere. Gas stations, schools, churches, a haunting reminder of innocence lost. Days passed with no sign. The community grew restless, prayers turning into desperate pleas. And then, on January 2, 2013, a breakthrough. A searcher noticed a small patch of disturbed earth deep in the woods near the Pennsylvania border, a place remote enough to escape casual visitors, hidden beneath a canopy of trees. As investigators approached, the ground gave way to what they had feared most: human remains. They worked carefully, covering the scene with protective tarps and calling in forensic experts. The identification was soon confirmed. The remains were those of Skylar Neese. The discovery brought both closure and heartbreak. Justice could finally begin, but the pain of loss was as raw as ever. This find transformed the case from a missing person investigation into a murder trial, one that would grip the nation and raise uncomfortable questions about trust, friendship, and the darkness that can lurk beneath the surface. The courtroom was packed. Cameras flashed. Reporters filled every corner as the trial of Sheila Eddy and Rachel Schoaf began, two teenage girls facing charges for the brutal murder of their best friend. The community watched in disbelief. How could these once normal teenagers commit such a horrific act? The prosecution laid out a case built on Rachel's confession, forensic evidence, and testimony from friends and family. Witnesses described the girls' changing behavior after Skylar's disappearance, Sheila's social media posts full of fake grief, Rachel's withdrawal and mental breakdown. Graphic details emerged about the planning and execution of the murder, the cold calculation, the secrecy, the betrayal. Sheila's defense tried to argue diminished responsibility due to her age and mental state, but the jury was unmoved. After weeks of testimony, the verdict was clear. Both girls were found guilty. Rachel received a 30-year sentence, while Sheila was sentenced to life in prison without parole. The judge called it a tragic and senseless act that shattered lives and betrayed the fundamental trust of friendship. The trial ended, but the impact lingered, a stark reminder of how easily innocence can be lost, and how sometimes the greatest dangers come from those closest to us. Understanding why Sheila and Rachel killed Skylar has baffled experts and the public alike. Was it jealousy, peer pressure, mental illness, or something darker? Psychologists involved in the case painted a disturbing picture of teenage dynamics spiraling out of control. According to experts, Sheila and Rachel's friendship was fraught with tension, competition, and a desire for control. Skylar, the brightest and most popular of the trio, became the target of their resentment. Rachel confessed that small disagreements escalated into plans for murder, a shocking transformation from friends to foes. Social media added fuel to the fire. Sheila's constant public mourning clashed with private cruelty, while Rachel's inner turmoil exploded in confessions and breakdowns. Experts warn that adolescent brains are still developing, especially areas responsible for impulse control and empathy. In this case, those developmental challenges, combined with peer pressure and psychological issues, created a perfect storm. But nothing could justify the brutal act. The case forced schools and communities to rethink how they address teen mental health, bullying, and conflict resolution. Skylar's murder became a tragic lesson, a reminder that sometimes, beneath the surface of friendship, lies a hidden darkness few want to see. The murder of Skylar Neese left an indelible mark on the small West Virginia community. Her death became a symbol of loss, betrayal, and the fragile nature of trust. Vigils were held, tears were shed, and families came together to mourn a life stolen too soon. Skylar's parents, Dave and Mary, became voices for victims' rights and teenage safety, speaking out across the nation about the dangers of hidden struggles among youth. Local schools introduced programs aimed at recognizing warning signs in friendships, teaching students to speak up when they feel unsafe or notice changes in their peers. Skylar's story sparked conversations about mental health, teenage violence, and the importance of community vigilance. But healing was a long road. The shadow of betrayal lingered, making it difficult for many to trust again. Yet through it all, Skylar's memory remained a beacon, a call to parents, teachers, and friends to look deeper, listen closer, and protect the vulnerable. Her life, though tragically cut short, inspired change and hope in a community determined not to let her death be in vain. Skylar Neese's murder ignited a nationwide conversation about teenage safety and the hidden dangers within close friendships. The case became a catalyst for legislative change. New laws were proposed and passed aimed at improving missing person protocols and enhancing the training of law enforcement in handling adolescent cases. Skylar's parents advocated tirelessly for these changes, working with lawmakers and nonprofit organizations to prevent other families from enduring the same nightmare. Schools across the country adopted programs focused on mental health awareness, conflict resolution, and the importance of open communication among teens. The tragedy highlighted the critical need to recognize warning signs, jealousy, secrecy, sudden behavioral changes, and intervene before tragedy strikes. Skylar's story serves as a haunting reminder. Sometimes, the greatest threats come from those closest to us, disguised behind smiles and shared secrets. Her legacy is more than just a cold case solved. It is a beacon of awareness, a call to action, and a testament to the power of community resilience. Though gone, Skylar Neese's spirit lives on, in the lives she touched, the laws she helped change, and the vigilance she inspired. The heartbreaking truth of Skylar Neese's murder lies not only in the act itself, but in the betrayal. Two best friends, people she trusted implicitly, became her killers. This betrayal is what haunts many who followed the case. Friendship is meant to be a safe harbor, a refuge from the challenges of life. But what happens when that refuge turns into a trap? Skylar's story forces us to confront uncomfortable questions. How well do we really know those closest to us? Can jealousy and resentment grow so silently, so dangerously, that friendship turns deadly? Experts say that teen relationships can be volatile, full of unspoken tensions and power struggles. When combined with immaturity, peer pressure, and mental health issues, the consequences can be tragic. But there is hope. By learning from cases like Skylar's, communities can build stronger support networks, encourage honest communication, and create environments where troubled teens feel safe seeking help. Betrayal is painful, but it can also be a catalyst for awareness, a reminder that vigilance and compassion must walk hand in hand. Skylar's life, her death, and her story compel us to look deeper into the shadows of friendship and to protect those who may silently suffer. After the trial concluded, life in Star City was forever changed. The quiet streets where Skylar once played and laughed were now marked by grief and solemn remembrance. Sheila Eddy and Rachel Schoaf began serving their sentences, young lives lost behind prison walls, haunted by their actions and the irreversible consequences. Meanwhile, Skylar's family focused on healing, channeling their pain into advocacy and education. Dave and Mary Neese spoke openly about the importance of mental health resources and the dangers of overlooking teenage turmoil. The schools and community groups increased efforts to identify at-risk youth and provide support networks. The Neese family's strength inspired many, reminding the world that even in the darkest moments, resilience can shine. Though the wound of loss would never fully heal, the community's commitment to change became Skylar's lasting gift. Her name lives on, not just as a victim, but as a catalyst for hope, safety, and understanding. Behind bars, Sheila Eddy and Rachel Schoaf confronted the weight of their actions. Letters exchanged between them and the outside world revealed remorse, anger, confusion, and a complicated mix of guilt and denial. In some letters, Rachel expressed deep sorrow, admitting that she wished things had never happened. She spoke about therapy, about trying to understand her own mind, about the heavy burden of living with what they did. Sheila's letters were more guarded, oscillating between defiance and occasional hints of regret. The two girls, once inseparable, were now distant, separated by their sentences and the long years ahead. Their words offer a rare glimpse into the minds of those who commit such crimes, not monsters, but young people overwhelmed by emotions they couldn't control, choices they couldn't undo. For Skylar's family and the public, these letters serve as a haunting reminder of the tragedy's complexity, that evil can hide behind innocence, and pain can live in every corner of the human heart. Skylar Neese's story is a painful chapter in the book of human experience, a stark reminder that sometimes the most devastating betrayals come from those closest to us. Her murder shattered a community, challenged law enforcement, and forced the nation to look deeper into teenage friendships, mental health, and the warning signs too often ignored. Yet, amid the darkness, her life sparked change. From new laws protecting missing children, to increased awareness about teen mental health, to programs teaching youth how to build healthy relationships, Skylar's legacy continues to save lives. Her parents' unwavering strength and advocacy transformed grief into hope. Skylar's story encourages us all to pay attention to the quiet struggles, the hidden pain, the friendships that seem perfect but may harbor secrets. Because sometimes, saving a life means listening closely to the stories beneath the surface. Though she was taken far too soon, Skylar Neese will never be forgotten. Her memory lives on, a beacon lighting the path toward understanding, compassion, and justice. And that is the lasting truth behind this tragic, unforgettable case. The story of Skylar Neese is one of heartbreaking betrayal and shattered innocence. It's a reminder that danger doesn't always come from strangers lurking in the shadows. Sometimes, it's the friends we trust most who hide the darkest secrets. Skylar's life was cut short not just by violence, but by the silence and lies that surrounded her. For 6 long months, a community searched in fear and hope, only to face the devastating truth that shattered everything they believed about friendship and trust. But even in tragedy, there is power. Skylar's family refused to let her death be in vain. Their tireless advocacy helped create stronger protections for missing children and inspired countless conversations about teenage mental health and the warning signs we must never ignore. Her legacy lives on not only in laws and programs, but in the hearts of all who hear her story and commit to paying closer attention to the young people in their lives. This case reminds us, beneath smiles and shared secrets, there can be pain no one sees. It challenges us to listen more, to care more, and to act before silence becomes too loud. Skylar's light was extinguished far too soon, but her memory will continue to shine, guiding us to protect the vulnerable, to seek truth, and to never forget the cost of betrayal. Thank you for watching. If this story moved you, please like, share, and subscribe for more true crime documentaries that uncover the truth behind the headlines. And remember, sometimes the greatest mysteries hide not in the dark, but in plain sight. Thanks for watching.